Hi, everyone. Welcome to Home Cooking with Foodland. We're so happy to see everyone here. Um, I think we have a fun class scheduled for today, and I hope everyone enjoyed making their Thai curry with ulu last week. The one we made was it came out really good, and I've been eating it throughout the course of the week, and I probably gained 5 pounds because of the richness of that coconut cream. But I thought it was really, really great, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And hey, I didn't get any pictures, so please, if you've made it, send me a picture. We love to see those pictures. All right. We were thinking about what would be fun to do today. Oh, for those of you that might be here for your first time, please, we love the questions. Ask lots of questions, and use your Q&A feature in Zoom and ask those questions. And we have this really cool group of people here, so I will answer some of the questions, and we have fact checkers, and they will also help answer questions for you. As you ask them. So please ask the questions. I love talking about food, and it can be about what we're making, and it can be about food in general, because the more we can help each other kind of like explore and go on our path for cooking, the better. So anyway, we were thinking about what we would do this week, and someone reminded me that it is football season. It may be a little bit different of football season than normal, but it is football season. So we were thinking about what would be fun to do to kind of like come together with football season. And we are kind of moving into the holiday season, and although it may be a little bit different this year, there's still going to be a holiday season, and I think it's a great opportunity to do some dishes that you can do that's great for game day. But I think there are also good dishes that you can do for, depending on what level we're at. It may be for a very small gathering, or it may be for a little bit larger gathering of socially distanced people. But I still think we can find ways to have fun with it. So we're gonna do 2 dips today, and I wanted to do one. Actually, I think they're both very good local dips. One of them is definitely local. It's Kamaboko Dip, so we'll do that. And the other one I wanted to do is warm crab and artichoke dip. And in my head, it feels local because for those of you that maybe are on Oahu or that visit Oahu from the other islands, there was a restaurant that was pretty well known for, or 2 restaurants actually. One of them was Horatio's, and then it became Kincaid's. And then there's also Ryan Grills that was in Ward Center, and they made crab artichoke dip, which was very, very popular. So we're gonna make a version of that. We're gonna make one that's inspired by that, and I think it's really gonna hit the spot. All right, so we're gonna start with the crab artichoke dip because that one takes some baking, so I want to get that in the oven. Okay. Now the recipe I gave you is for 1 batch. I'm gonna make 2 batches because the crew here, I've been told, really, really likes this, and so I want to make sure that there's enough to go around. Okay. And you might be thinking I'm kidding, but the crew says they have T-shirts that say "Will work for food." And I gotta make sure I give them plenty of food. So we'll start with artichokes. These are hearts, and these are from Arfield Wine Company. And the cool thing is, if you live in Kaneohe, we actually have a nice Arfield selection in there. But these are, like I said in the recipe, not marinated. So they're lightly in salt water, but they're just artichokes. I don't want all the oil. I don't want the herbs and all that stuff that's in there. We're gonna go ahead and rough chop them. I'm just gonna go in with your knife and just chop them down. They're 100% usable. So you just want to get in there. And this one, you're gonna have to decide. Like, if you love the artichoke thing, you can make them really coarse and chunky. So how much you chop them is up to you. I like to make sure that when I'm eating the dip to make sure that every so often I know I'm eating artichokes, so I don't go too crazy on them. I don't want them to be like pre-chewed. You know what I mean? So. This is, I think, probably pretty good wherever you go. And I hope by now, everyone, if you've been with us for a while, you've all bought yourself a Chinese cleaver, because this is a perfect scraper. By the way, you could all do that too if you want to. But I love it for scraping. Look how good it is for scraping. Get that going in here. Now, one of the things you can do with this too is this is a great kind of a mix. We used to, by the way, I used to work at Horatio's, and so I have firsthand experience of that restaurant style. But we used to also use this for sandwiches. So you could take this mix, right? Put in a slice of French bread, put some cheese on it, throw it in the oven, and you have a nice open faced sandwich. So there's just lots of different ways you can go with it. So we have our artichokes here. Next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna just throw this in real quick. So the recipe says 1 6-ounce can of crab meat, right? I have 2 because I'm doubling the recipe. We're using lump crab meat. The recipe we used to do at Horatio's was Dungeness crab meat. Now, lump crab meat is from blue crab, and there's different kinds of there's back fin, there's claw meat, there's lump, there's jumbo lump, and super lump. And the differences are the back fin is from the legs and the back parts of the crab. I think claw meat is pretty self-explanatory. When you start moving into lump and jumbo lump and super lump, it's about the pieces. So this is lump, right? You see how it's kind of broken up? If you go in jumbo lump, you'll find pieces that are like whole that just came out of the crab that are all together. Super lump are just like really nice fat pieces that came out of the crab and not broken up. And the less broken up the pieces are, the more expensive it tends to get. So in this application, I think lump is perfect for this. You could use imitation crab. You can use other kinds of crab. I like blue crab because it has a nice crab flavor, just like how Dungeness crab has a really good crab flavor. Okay, we're gonna put some mayo, parm. I'm gonna cut up some onion right now. Onion's gonna go inside. It called for 1 cup, so I'm just gonna use 1 whole onion here.
Can you use fresh or frozen crab meat?
So that's an interesting question. In my experience, all crab meat is actually frozen because I mean, unless you're like from a port that is like literally catching the crabs, cooking them there, most crab is gonna be frozen. They harvest them all in. I don't watch the show, but I believe if you watch what's that show on Discovery, the crab show. Anyway, they catch all the crabs, they bring them in, they get cooked in salted water, quickly frozen, and then sent out. So from my understanding, that most of the crab that you're gonna see is already cooked. Even this lump crab that you're getting, they're gonna they can bring all the crabs in, they harvest them, they cook them, they process them, they can them, and it goes out. So I think most people are gonna work with something that is pre-cooked, that was probably frozen and then maybe thawed out. However, if you are able to get fresh crab, like literally fresh crab, like you happen to be in one of those places like Seattle where you can get that, I don't know if I would make crab dip. I would probably just get the crab as is. But you could do it. You could do it.
What section did you find that lump crab bag from in Foodland?
Seafood department.
In frozen section?
No. So, if you go in Kaneohe here, right? When you go to the case, it has the on the left-hand side we have all the shrimp. On the right-hand side we have the saku blocks and ahi and local fish, and the salmon is right on the top right, right there. Okay.
And you don't have to pick out the shells. Just use.
You guys are tough.
All the meat.
So if you want to be a purist, yeah, it does help to kind of open up, go through it. Sometimes you find little fragments. In my experience, and this product I think is really good. For the most part, you won't find them. But if you want to be a purist, then yes, I would say you go through and you pick it, and you peel out. You might find little tiny pieces of shell or cartilage. But typically, what I have found is minor, tiny piece, but not like big hunk that's gonna like throw you off, right? So, but that's a good question. You want to if you really feel like you want to, then yeah, that's something you should do. I think all the textures in here, for the most part, you're good. Okay. Okay, so we've got our onion now. Most of the time we've been doing this, I'm always saying, cut with the lines this way. In this case, I want to go across, and the reason why is, in this particular dish, I like that much more accentuated curve, and you want to go very thin. If you have a Japanese mandolin, That's great. If you happen to have a meat slicer at home, that's great. But you want to go very thin because you want the onion flavor. And when you bake this, if it's too thick, you're gonna have hunks of onion and they might not cook all the way. So you want to go as thin as you possibly can and take your time with this too.
Keoni, if you're a vegetarian, what would you substitute for the crab?
Yeah, I gotta think about that. I might make it without the crab. I would just do the artichokes. One thing you could do would be use hearts of palm. That would be cool. You could maybe do it with yuca or something. The tricky part is the crab gives you sort of a nice sweetness, right? So you might have to find other, maybe a combination of hearts of palm, artichoke, and a little bit of sweet potato. You also like umami is important in this dish, so maybe you want to put some mushrooms in there to help give you some of the umami. I haven't, I'm just riffing right now, but because we're doing crab, it might be interesting to do to get seaweed in there a little bit, nori, so you get some of that more umami seaweed briny flavor. That could be interesting. So we'll take this and then we'll throw it inside our mix here. Chopped parsley. So I have Italian parsley. We're gonna throw some inside here. And again, so this is that's a tender herb. So like in French cuisine or fine dining restaurants, what I would do is I would pick all these little tiny leaves off. But for the kind of style of cooking that we're doing here, it's rustic, it's home cooking. I don't think that you really need to go. If you want to, you can. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm just rolling it all together. I'm almost like twisting it. And then I get in here with my knife and chop it. Rough chop. Now, in a lot of restaurants, what I would do is take this and squeeze it in a cheesecloth to get the chlorophyll out. But I think you give up a lot of flavor by getting the chlorophyll out, and I don't think it's not gonna really affect negatively the dish if there's a little bit more chlorophyll in here. So that's gonna go inside.
What do you mean by chlorophyll?
Chlorophyll. So if I were to let this sit, or you can see right here, you see how it's turned the side towel green? But if I squeeze this, that green color, the green juice, that's the chlorophyll that comes out of it. And so a lot of restaurants or fine dining restaurants we will press it to try to dry them out because we don't want that to get into the food or discolor the food. But I think the chlorophyll gives it flavor, it gives it a grassiness. So we're gonna leave that in here. Okay, what else we got here? Okay, cheese, Parmesan cheese. I'm using Asiago. Asiago's good, Romano's good, Parmesan's good, Reggiano Parmesan's good. So any of these grating cheeses that you are gonna work great. I have 2 pieces here. I cut it in half. You can use one of these graters if you got. Use the box grater. I'm using one of these deals. I don't know what you call it, a twisty grater. But like we've talked about before, right? I'm not using pre-shredded for this kind of thing because I don't really, the anti-caking agents that are present in here in pre-grated stuff are gonna really, it won't melt the cheeses in the same way that I want. So you're better off grating your own cheese because it will melt better and you get a more luxurious product. Okay. So that's gonna go in there. Let's just break that up. Someone will get a nice little surprise and go for this one here. And then once I get this done, we're gonna go in there some salt, pepper, and then we're gonna go in with the magic stuff, right? The mayo. And the mayo, that's like the key thing. And I'm using Best Foods. If you're watching and you're east of the Rockies, you want to be using Hellman's. That's the good stuff. Okay. Okay, so we've got all this stuff in here. A little bit of salt.
Can you use dried parsley?
You can use dried parsley if you have it, but if you haven't been using fresh herbs, I think it's worth trying. If you're gonna make a serious commitment to making food that is delicious and you want to take it to the next level, the difference between dry and fresh herbs is night and day. And I don't know if anyone's had experienced a dry shiitake mushroom versus a fresh one. The experience is completely different. So you can use it because it'll give you color, but it'll actually have what I would consider, I call like it's actually a dried essence, a dried character that you don't get from the freshness of using something that's not dried. So two cups we call first. I'm gonna go, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll put a little bit more because we're in Hawaii. A little scoop there. By the way, this is also really good as a stuffing or a topping. So like imagine getting a piece of salmon, right? And taking some of this mix and putting it on top of the salmon and then baking it. It'd be really delicious. You see it's all coming together now, right? And you're gonna get that the onions give it a nice flavor and umami. You get a nice artichoke, kind of alkalinity a little bit. The sweetness from the crab. You're gonna get the chlorophyll from the parsley, and then you're gonna get more umami, saltiness from the cheese.
Have you ever tried this on shrimp?
You mean like to put it on shrimp or using shrimp?
Both. Not sure what.
Okay, hang on for a second.
Was not specific.
I want you to look at this, and I feel like this is where the judgment comes in. I want it to be a little more creamy, so I'm gonna put a little bit more. My goal on today's cooking class is to use this whole bottle, okay?
But if you didn't want to use so much mayo, can you substitute half with something else, like olive oil?
Yeah, you could use, well, you want it to be creamy and you want it to be emulsified. So you could use sour cream, you could use yogurt. I would say those are the two ones I would recommend. But I think if you're gonna make this dish, you should commit to using something like the mayo, because the mayo really makes it come together, and really, there's a magic that you get when you do this. Oh, by the way, hang on a second. It's just, everything just comes together in a really, really nice way when you're using the mayo. And I don't know, I love mayo, but you know, I think locals love mayo too. I'm gonna spray this.
And you're doubling the recipe, right? Because
this is double the recipe. Yes.
Eating.
So if you're following me, you're like, how come I have a lot less? It's because you're making 1 time, they're making 2 times.
And the question was, can you use shrimp instead of the crab?
So you can use shrimp instead of the crab. Chop it all up, throw it inside. But I like the idea of using, like, I could see taking big shrimp and putting this on top of the shrimp and making a crust with it too. That could be really cool. So there's lots of things I think you can do with this. You could also take, I mean, the crab is a shellfish, right? Basically seafood. So you could do scallops, you could do shrimp, crab, and scallops. You know, there's a lot of different ways you can go with this to riff on it and to make it, you know, to customize it to be your own.
If you substitute yogurt for the mayo, do you need to add something else to bind it, like egg, or can you just use the yogurt in place of the mayo?
You can just use the yogurt in place. I mean, it'll bind it. The cheese is going to be another binder, and the cheese is also going to, that's why I'm adding a little bit more on top here. The cheese will help brown it. So I made three, and I made them thin because I want to get this going, so I can hopefully get this so we can see this at the end. But you can put it in a big crock, or you can put a bunch of them, you know. But I also want to show you that this is a very versatile thing where you can put it in small containers too, and then you can make individuals for people. So I have my oven preheated. Make sure you guys are using oven safe bowls. Go ahead and put that in.
Ooh.
A little tight.
What about adding jalapeno?
Jalapenos could work. And look at it, it's not working with me today. Let me see here.
What do you think about What do you think about Kewpie mayo?
Kewpie mayo could work. I'm gonna just do two. I'll do the other ones later. Kewpie mayo is good. Kewpie mayo is just sweeter. If you like Kewpie mayo, you can totally use that. What was the question before that, Cheryl? What were you asking me?
Jalapeno.
Oh yeah, you can put jalapeno if you like spicy. What's nice about this dish though is it's mild, it's rich. You have it on bread. It's kind of like if you like escargot, you think about the garlic butter and the earthiness of the escargot. The question is whether you really want heat. And I think the maybe in my head that this feels more like a French-ish style dish where it's a lot of rich items that are mild together, where spice is not really one of those components of that. But if spice is what you like, you can totally put some in there, yeah. Okay, so while that's baking, we're gonna make our second dip, and this is a dip that I really didn't realize was as popular as it is, but it's Kamaboko dip. And one thing I wanted to mention is when you're gonna learn this dip, the Kamaboko that we're gonna put in, which is fish cake, for those of you that might not be familiar, this is from the Hilo, but it's steamed fish cake, right? And they shape it on a board and then they steam it. You can use the relative ratios that I have here to make other kinds of dips. And so if you don't want to put kamaboko, for example, you could do kimchi and you can chop that up, or you could put water chestnuts and spinach or bacon. So it's one of those. It's a very versatile base, but I wanted to show you what I think is a very, very local style dish. Okay. So I'm going to just cut this open. Basically, fish cake, if you're not familiar, it's like surimi, right? So if you don't have access to fish cake and you want to make it very quick, if you get imitation crab and you shred it all up and chop it and you use it, you'll get a very similar result. So the piece of wood that's here, you just want to cut. You just cut the kamaboko off. And that just goes away. Now, there's ways you can do this. If you have a RoboCoupe or a food processor, you can just chop it all up. But what I like to do here is grate it. And the reason why I grate it is because I like the very fine little shreds that are going to be created, and it helps bring this whole thing together. So I'm using the finer pieces of the finer holes, and we're just going to go ahead and grate. I guess I could grate it in here, right? So that I'm not making a huge mess. You want to just lean in here and grate it. You guys are so quiet today. Keep grating. I'm just curious, while we're doing this, are there any, for those of you, maybe first time, for those of you who've been here with us for a while, are there any things that I haven't done that you're like, gosh, I just wish it'd be so great if you did something like this, that I would learn whatever that is? Anything, anyone? Ideas? We're going ahead, we're just pushing this through, trying to get it all nicely grated.
Long rice was a suggestion.
Let's try Caesar tacos over here. See how it does.
Island broth was another suggestion. Pumpkin dishes like kabocha.
Okay, like it. Actually, see how this one for me, in this particular one, it seems to be working better, quicker. But you see the difference in the grapes, right? This is nicer. If you have time.
Also, jindui, the Chinese donut, and Korean black sesame balls. Pho, Chinese steamed rice cake. Wow. Any recipes for oven-baked rack of lamb? Chichidango, nishime. Smoked meat like ribs or pork.
You guys writing this down?
Fa.
Mhm.
A dessert. Something
Ooh, I
that
knew
you
some-
bake. Manapua, malasadas, Korean oven baked chicken, pad thai.
All really great ideas.
Anything in an instant pot.
Okay.
Fa.
I heard pho many
Poke.
times, right?
Poke.
Okay, I cannot do that. I have a non-compete with that.
Gravy for chow mein.
I thought we did that one.
Okonomiyaki.
Okonomiyaki sounds cool. How about, I keep forgetting what it's called. What's the one where you take the egg and you cook it in broth and you put it over rice? What's that called?
Oyakodonburi.
Oh, yeah. What do you guys think about that?
Yes. Dishes with tofu. Cake noodle with gaoji. A good brown gravy recipe. Braised short ribs.
What kind? Wait. What kind of brown recipe are we talking about? Like, is it more like Chinese brown sauce recipe or like Western style gravy kind?
Okay. We have to wait for the response.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Chawanmushi. Breakfast dishes.
Wow.
Chachubao. Katsudonburi. Chinese gravy. Western
There's a
dishes.
Chinese gravy again.
Braised short rib lokomoko with gravy recipe, of course. Chicken feet dim sum.
Oh my goodness.
Chinese style sweet and sour ribs. More okazuya recipes. Chicken feet dim sum. Oh, I said that.
You guys actually gonna make all these if I show you how?
Char
Okay.
Pizza.
Pizza. Okay.
Butteryaki.
Cheryl can teach that one. What's interesting, it's cool. I guess what I have, and this is great ideas. Let me just think about it because I have to try to figure out how to do this in an hour, right? And sometimes some of the dishes require multiple steps and multiple layers, but I think that's all great.
Meatjun. Katsudonburi.
You know what's funny? Meatjun, I had that for
Bibimbap.
breakfast this morning. And I was like, I wonder if they want to learn how to make meatjun. We can do that. Okay.
Meatjun and bibimbap spring rolls.
How about meatjun and just like some panchan? So like bean sprouts, choy sum. What do you guys think about that?
Pickled pig's ears.
Wow.
Miso butterfish.
We did a miso salmon, right? Just take this butterfish, throw them inside. So on the brown sauce, are we talking about like Chinese brown sauce or like local moco brown sauce?
Okay, just a minute. Banana lumpia, japchae, chicken heka.
Wow. Okay.
Different kinds of noodle dishes. So japchae, Singapore rice noodles, cake noodles.
Okay.
If it takes a long time, you can do a part 1 and then a part 2. Pastele stew.
You guys okay if can I save part 1 to room in the fridge till next time I come back?
Sure. Lunch wagon, yellow curry, Korean pancake.
I did Korean pancake.
Salmon ochazuke.
Okay.
What is that Japanese dish? Are you not the kombu? You know?
Kombu
Yes, that one.
We have that. Go foodland.com. By the way, the last piece is if I have a hard time, I just cut them up small. Throw that aside. Okay. So that's done.
You know that cheese grater that you used? Could you put the kamaboko in there?
I don't think so. It would just turn to mush. Yeah. But you know what you could do too? You could try. I didn't do this, so don't hold me to it. But it might be easier too if you take it, freeze it. It'll go faster. Okay, so we take this now.
Portuguese bean soup, Thanksgiving side dishes, lemongrass chicken, tripe stew, venison, pipinola.
You guys have my calendar filled up already. We're good. I thought about doing Portuguese bean soup too, but the only tricky part is I'm trying to figure out how to do things for you folks that, like with the Portuguese bean soup, once you get the thing going, it's like, what's next, right? I guess we could hang out and talk story, but I got to figure out how to do something for you all that shows technique and workmanship for an hour. But that's a good idea. I gotta think about that.
You be making any festive dishes for the holidays, for Thanksgiving and or Christmas and New Year's?
Yeah, so as we get closer to Thanksgiving, I was thinking about doing some things like maybe doing showing you guys how to make fresh cranberry sauce if you've never made that before. I like I make fresh cranberry sauce, but I gotta always have a can of the ocean spray jellied stuff because I like to, I don't know, I grew up eating that, but I'll make fresh cranberry sauce. So I thought maybe we could do that. I might show you guys how to make stuffing or a side dish of some kind. I think those could be fun to do. So yeah, I think we want to do that kind of stuff.
What did you just put in the bowl?
This is the water chestnuts. So I got a can of sliced water chestnuts, drained them, and just rough chop them and put them in. So that's in there now.
Another idea is moussaka. Oxtail soup.
Some Greek food.
Mango chutney.
Mango chutney. Like that. Great ideas. I gotta figure out how to get mangoes not in season right now, but I like that idea. Green onions we're gonna throw inside now. The water chestnuts, depending on, I like to feel the texture of water chestnuts. So if you like that, you can go rough chop like I did. But if it's too much, you can go a little bit finer. Okay, so that's in there. The next thing that we're gonna put in here is softened cream cheese. I had this sitting out for a while, and it's you want half a cup. So one of these blocks, they have the thing here. This is an 8-ounce block, so half ounce by weight is 4 ounces. I'm gonna put half a block in here. Let me go check. Let me go check, see how this thing is doing. Come, let's take a look. Yeah, I can smell it, but you see how it's looking. It's this coming together. Now it's warming through. I'm gonna cheat the process a little bit. I'm gonna teach you guys how to cheat because we're all here together, and I want to make sure I have something to show you folks in time. So I'm turning it on now to the broil setting and have it on high. I want to brown the top, so it's hot on the inside. If I had more time and you had time at home, you leave it in, and naturally it will get hot and start to bubble, and then the heat will brown the top. I'm trying to accelerate the process, so I'm turning the broiler on so that it radiates heat down, and so I can try to brown it faster.
Do you need to open the door a little bit?
I don't. I mean, that's interesting. I do sometimes, but the reason that I believe you might be opening the door, and I've done it, is because the broiler setting hits a thermostat and the heating elements shut off. So by opening the door, you keep dropping the temperature, which has a thermostat say, oh, I got to turn the heating element on again to kind of keep that thing going. We'll put this cream cheese in here. I was waiting for someone to say, hey, if I want to make this dip, but I don't want to use, how do you make it vegetarian? Or if I don't like cream cheese, how do we do that? I was going to say, basically you can omit this fish cake, right? If you don't want to do that, and you can do a myriad of cooked other things, like we had talked about kimchi. You could do like mushrooms. You could do spinach instead. So it becomes a spinach and water chestnut. You could take spinach, take some of the artichokes from there, throw them in here, and have a dip like that. The cream cheese, I'm not a particular huge fan of cream cheese, but in this particular application, it's really important because I'm looking for the consistency of this cream cheese. You see how it holds itself like that? And if I were just to put mayonnaise or just sour cream in here and I would stir it together, it's not gonna hold itself. Now, when I make this, it's gonna probably be soft. And I'm also, right now I'm gonna start to, I wanna soften this more so it's easier to blend in, but it's gonna be soft. And what you usually wanna do is, once you make this, you throw it in the refrigerator and then it refirms up. The warmth, the heat, the friction, everything makes it very, very loose. So if you happen to make this and you feel like, wow, it's looking a little bit really like runny, put it in the refrigerator for a couple hours, put it in overnight, and you'll find that it resets up. So this may be, I mean, you could make it all like right there for your guests that are coming in, But I do think that this is one of those, if you can make it ahead of time and have hours to sit in the refrigerator, it'll cool down again. It will start to firm up again. And then that's kind of what you're looking for. Let's see what this is doing over here. You see what I mean? Look at that. My cheating method's working. It smells good. My mouth is watering.
Another idea is Portuguese eggs custard.
Interesting. I'm not familiar with that. I have to go look that up. Okay, so we have cream cheese, green onions, water chestnuts. Oh, here, this is the thing I gotta tell you. We gotta talk a little bit about. So I'm gonna ask my stepdad about it. He's Portuguese, by the way. So, and he makes a killer vinho doce. So one of the things that we were making, we were testing these, and I felt like I was America's Test Kitchen, Chris Kimball, and we're trying to figure like, we would make it, and we're like, it's pretty good, but it's like, there's something missing, right? And so what we realized in our head is this savory umami quality is missing, okay? And so what we did was we add hondashi into this, and that's basically, you know, one may argue there's two schools of thought. It has a little MSG in here, and it has some fish, and it's all the things, but the MSG really gives you a nice umami flavor. So I put it in this recipe. You can not put it in the recipe, but I think it really, like when you eat it, when you put a little bit of this in there, it really, really tastes really good. And so there have been studies. I mean, there's schools of thought on people have a sensitivity to MSG. Some people do, some people don't. I put a little bit in here because I feel like it's worth it. Just a little sprinkling on top. But if you're eating like ramen, if you're eating Sapporo Ichiban and you're putting that packet in there, you're getting MSG. So, I mean, that's one of those things, but it really, really, I think makes a huge difference in the eating quality. Now, there's other ways you can try to get that same quality in there. You could experiment by putting a very small dash of fish sauce in there because it has that umami. I forget who makes this, but where's that stuff called that it's like, it's umami powder, right? Like the ground up mushrooms and stuff, you could throw it in there. You want that meaty quality. That's really what kind of helps bring the whole thing together, okay? So I'm gonna double check here. We've got our kamaboko, mayonnaise, cream cheese, green onions, water chestnuts, a little bit of hondashi powder, and then we're gonna stir it up.
Have you ever tried Trader Joe's umami seasoning?
You don't say that word where I come from.
Okay, since you're making a big batch of this, can you tell us what ratio? Like, is there a ratio?
Hang on for 1 second. I want to just take a look at this. Come, let's hey Chastity, let's take a look. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. Can you guys smell it? Can you? Okay, so I'm gonna just leave that in there. We'll just let it chill for a minute. So the ratio for this, and we have this, it will be on the website when we upload the video, but basically it's 1 block of kamaboko, 3/4 cups of mayo, like one nice happy scoop, a half a block or half a cup of one of these cream cheese, a 1/4 cup green onions, like or 1 can of water chestnuts. I just threw the whole can inside, right? A dash of the hondashi powder, and then we'll put some furikake to taste. But you can take a look at this and see, this is the consistency. And again, we're cooking, the thing about this recipe is by feel. So I want it to be a little bit more creamy, but it's very colorful, right? It looks nice. I think it looks great.
Some other ideas are custard pumpkin pie, which I know we sell a lot of at Foodland, stuffing, mochi, Chinese restaurant style custard.
Oh, like custard tart?
Mochi rice.
Okay, that's all great, really good.
Sushi, any kind. California
any
roll,
kind sushi.
Philadelphia roll.
You know what? I just had my birthday recently, and the team bought me the Nobu Sushi cookbook. I've been really digging into that, so maybe we'll do that. I'm feeling a lot more confident about my sushi skills, so that could be fun. Okay, so we have our Kamaboko dip. We're gonna put some of that in here.
Also, turkey stuffing.
Okay. I'm feeling like holiday season, right? Maybe some cranberry sauce, some stuffing, maybe I don't know, maybe some kind of a potato or a Brussels sprout dish could be fun. I think I'm feeling where we can go. I heard enough. I heard quite a few of the. Oh, by the way, this is our umami. I'm sorry, this is our maikai ume furikake. So it's furikake that has like the shiso flavor in here. It's really cool.
Another idea is hula pie or zongzi, which is savory mochi rice meat wrapped inside a leaf, triangular shaped. Also, fun holiday cocktail.
Ooh, I'm in for that. Okay, maybe I'll have our resident mixologist come on and we'll do some cocktails together. That'd be fun. We'll have to stand 6 feet apart though, or something. I gotta figure that out. Okay. So we'll put some of that on there. That looks. I think that's nice and colorful, right? Festive. So this is. I'm jumping the gun here. This is a perfect holiday season appetizer. But here, so I'm putting it on a dish here. What makes this really, really great, it's all about the cracker. I like this cracker. We're gonna put some Ritz on here, and it never wants to work with me. Never wants to come out the way it should. Let me get these guys to come out. But I think I don't know, there's a certain salty, buttery, flaky crispiness that a Ritz cracker gives that I think works so well with this Kamaboko dip.
Another suggestion is palasami.
Oh, okay. I like it. We've got a lot of different ethnic cuisines covered in this discussion here. Okay. Put some more here. I think you guys get a sense of that, but the fun part is, right, you know, put it out nicely, put a nice presentation here, and then you put that out. And I'll put it this way. By the way, service note, when you guys are serving this to your guests, make sure that the shingles, the first piece here shingled this way is to them so that they can grab it. You don't want to put this one in the front because it's hard to get out there, okay? Put a little scooper in there. So that's ready. Next thing, we'll get some of that crab dip out.
Another idea is Taiwanese tapioca bubble tea.
Bubble tea. See how it's bubbling? I'll pull this one out here.
Also, Mexican dishes like pozole or chili verde.
Pozole. Ooh, okay. So we have the dip here. I put it on the matching. We have a matching bowl and a matching plate. And then just again, the part of what makes all of this stuff come together is the garnishing, right? So we'll take some leaves, we'll sprinkle it on top. Like even on this one here, I'll put a few on top of here.
Any tips for keeping the dip warm for your gathering?
Yeah, so if you're gonna have a get together and you do this ahead of time, you know, you want to put your oven on at 160 degrees or 180 degrees. Once you get it brown, and just keep it in the warming mode, it'll be fine. I'm gonna put some lemon on here. You can squeeze it on, or you can put it on the side for, you know, one of your guests can do the honors, I guess you would call it, right?
Another idea is garlic mashed potato and also smashed potatoes.
Okay. We got a whole nice side list of things for the holiday season, I think. Put a little pepper on here. And then what we have here, so this is a baguette that I had, and I think this is really great with baguette. So we're gonna go ahead and let me get my serrated knife. We'll cut slices.
Did you toast that baguette?
I toasted it before we all got on camera here. I didn't have enough room in my oven, but yeah, it's pre-toasted. So If you want it to be nice and warm, you can kind of throw it in at the last minute.
Another suggestion is butternut squash soup or ahi dip.
Ahi dip could be cool.
Crostini.
A lot of fun party ideas, right? Okay, so we have our baguette here. And what I'm just gonna do is place it on the plate here, just like this.
When you toasted the bread, did you wrap it with foil or did you just put it in your oven bare like that?
Straight in the oven. And the reason why I put it in 350 degrees, 8 to 10 minutes. This is already baked, so what you're just gonna do is crisp the outside. Okay.
Bruschetta and cauliflower dishes are other ideas.
Very nice. Awesome. I really appreciate that. That's great. We're gonna write all these down, and we'll go through them, and we're definitely gonna do some of the things that you guys all suggested, and I think there's some really cool ideas, especially for the holiday season. So here we're bringing this all together. Are there any last questions that we have here for the two dips? We have our crab and artichoke dip, which is smelling really, really, really good. You guys saw it bubbling when it came out. So all of the onions are nice and soft cooked now. The flavor from the crab, the sweetness has gone in there. The mayo has made it really nice and moist. The lemon's gonna bring the bright acidity when you eat it. You can take your little piece of bread, scoop some on there, and really, really just enjoy that. So you imagine this though, also like we talked about, being on a piece of fish and putting that in the oven, putting that on a nice slice of sourdough, put that in the oven to have an open face sandwich. And then we have here our Kamaboko Dip, which is, local fish cake, a little bit of cream cheese. We got some mayo in there, water chestnuts for texture. Secret ingredient is the hondashi. And of course, the perfect pairing with that is Ritz crackers.
Is the Kamaboko dip to be served chilled, room temperature, hot?
Kamaboko dip is chilled. So this is the fun thing. The nice thing about these two, I wanted to show a cold one and a hot one. So this one you can have ready to go. Everyone shows up, you pull it out, put it out. They can start with this one, and then when that one's gone, by that time this one's ready to go. You bring it out, and it's like a total showstopper. Again, this one, don't forget, you can mix in and out different ingredients, right? Kamaboko is the one I put in here, but you can use that same ratio and bacon spinach, spinach artichoke, bacon, cheddar cheese, there's green onions. So there's a million ways you can go with it. Clams, so have fun with this, explore, experiment. This one too, like we talked about, crab meat's great, scallops are great, shrimp is great. A combination of all of them are great. Take the shellfish out, put in mushrooms, put in some sweet potato, put in some hearts of palm. So there's a lot of different ways you can go with this. You can have a lot of fun with these two dips as a baseline for just a myriad of things that you can be creative with.
Can you add wasabi paste to the Kamaboko dip for a little bit of kick?
You can. I promise I won't tell anyone, okay? You do that, and that'll be your signature wasabi Kamaboko dip. And I'll look to read about you in Gourmet Magazine.
Finally, any good beer or wine pairing suggestions?
Beer, I think these are really good neutral items, but I would think any ale would be great. Any of the lagers would be great. I mean, this would be killer with Heineken, Stella, whatever your favorite beer is. And this is for game time too, right? On the wine side of things, I would go, I think these would be great with, if you're into varietals like Gewürztraminer, Riesling, I think would be great. So those sort of floral, fruity qualities would go well with this kind of the shellfish and the sweetness that's sort of in these dishes. Something crisp like Pinot Grigio, Sauvignon Blanc would be great. I think this would, because it's rich, would hold up to a nice Chardonnay. If you wanted to go red, well, as a crossover, I think any of the rosés would do well. I think that if you went into a really light Pinot Noir, something from maybe from Oregon or Washington, I think you could have a really, really great wine pairing with this. But then this would also be really good with a killer martini or a Manhattan or a old fashioned too. So have fun with it.
Mochiko chicken was another suggestion, but can you also remind everyone of the schedule?
Yes, so we are changing the schedule starting in October. Once October starts, we'll be going the first and third week of every month. So being that today is the last day in September, we'll see you folks next week, Wednesday, and that's when the new schedule starts. So it'll be next week. We'll take off the 7th, then we'll take the next week off, and then we'll be back on the 21st, and then we'll just keep cycling. First and third. So because of that too, I think all the ideas that you've promoted, that you've given me are great. The next series of things, I think I'm going to kind of start to focus on things that we can think about for the Thanksgiving season, and then we'll start working on thinking about things for the holiday season. All right. We hope you guys had fun. Again, send me those pictures. And if you have any other questions, please shoot them to us. We'll get answers to you. And we hope you had fun. And we'll see you next week. Thanks.